When you solve a quadratic by factoring, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that it's equal to 0, so this one's good, and you also need to make sure that it's in standard form, so you work from the highest power of n until you get to no n's at all. So this is in the right order and it's equal to 0, so you're ready to factor. Now some of you prefer using the bottoms up method, and some of you prefer using the guess and check method. If the first number is 1, it doesn't matter which method you use, because if you took 1 to the end and multiplied the 9, it doesn't change anything. So there's no bottom to put back if you're using the bottoms up method. So what I need to find is two factors that multiply to make positive 9, but at the same time, these same two numbers, if I added them, add up to the middle number, which is negative 6. So you're trying to decide what times what makes positive 9, but those same two numbers add to make negative 6. Did you come up with negative 3 and negative 3? Because the negative times the negative makes the 9 positive, but negative 3 plus negative 3 does add up to negative 6. So the pair of numbers that I'm going to use to factor this are negative 3 and negative 3. So I have two sets of parentheses, and it's still equal to 0. For the n squared, at the beginning, I'll use n times n. And we already figured out that for the 9 and the negative 6, we'll use a negative 3 and a negative 3. Now you can look at this and know that you have it factored correctly, because n times n is n squared. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And the middle term comes from a combination of multiplying these two together, negative 3 times n, and these two, negative 3 times n. And when you find the sum of those two answers, if they add up to your middle term, then you know that you have factored it correctly. So I have it factored correctly, and now I just need to do the last step, which is find the answers for n. However many n's I have, that's how many potential answers I can get. I have 2 n's, but you can see on this one that it's the exact same thing twice. So when I find my first answer for n minus 3 equals 0, to solve this for n, you would just bump that 3 to the other side and figure out that n is positive 3. If you come over here and solve, since it's the exact same thing, you should surely get the exact same answer. Now normally you wouldn't write that same answer twice, and you'll see on standardized tests and in math books, they'll write it in their fancy way. They'll say the answer is n equals 3 with a duplicity of 2, which is just a fancy way of saying you got that same answer twice. But my final answer is n equals 3, and I'm done. You have a worksheet that's entitled Worksheet on Your Own, and number 1 is very similar to the number 1 that we just worked. So you need to, before you watch number 2 on your video worksheet, you need to work number 1 on the On Your Own worksheet and make sure that you can do that correctly before you move on to number 2.